I am in Eclipse STS IDE now. In order to create Spring Boot project, go to the file, new, and then choose Spring Starter project. So look at here, this is a Spring Initializer user interface. Basically, Spring Initializer is integrated in STS IDE. We can use Spring Initializer to quickly create a Spring based application. So let's go ahead and let's give a name to the project. Let's give a name as Spring Boot backend. Alright, and type as Maven, packaging jar, Java version 8, language Java, and let's give group as net.java guides. You can give any group ID that you want, and artifact ID is going to be our application name, so let's keep as it is. Version, let's keep default version as it is, and this is the description of our project, and this is package. Let's change the package. I am going to give package name as net.javaguides.springboot. Alright, once you are happy with the details, click next, and look at here, this is the Spring Boot latest release, and I am going to keep this latest release as it is. And here we are going to develop a simple REST API. For that, what I will do, I will just select Spring Web Dependency. So we use Spring Web Dependency to create a RESTful web services as well as Spring MVC web applications, and this dependency internally provides Apache Tomcat server as a default embedded server. Okay, great. Now what we will do, we will use in-memory database, that is H2 database. Let us select H2 database library. Let's go ahead and let's pick up Spring Data JPA dependency. Alright, so Spring Data JPA dependency is basically we use to reduce a boilerplate code that is required to develop a DAO layer. Okay, and Spring Data JPA internally uses Hibernate framework as a JPA provider. Alright guys, once you select all the required dependencies, then hit finish. This will create a new Spring Boot project in Eclipse STS IDE. Alright guys, we have created a simple Spring Boot project in Eclipse STS IDE. Now what we'll do, we will create a packaging structure. Right click on a package, new, and then choose package, and let's create a new package. Let's name it as model. Let's quickly create one more package. Let's name it as repository, and let's go ahead and let's create one more package. Let's name it as controller. Alright, now what we'll do, we'll create a JPA entity. Right click on model package, new, and then choose class, and let's give name as user. We're going to create a user JPA entity. Let's create few fields: private log ID, private string, first name, private string, last name, and private string email. Alright, let's keep only these fields, and let's go ahead and let's create getter setter methods to access these fields, and let's also create a constructor here. And let's create a default constructor. Alright, so this is a simple Java class. Let's make this Java class as a JPA entity by adding JPA annotations. Let's use @entity annotation and @table annotation, and let's give a name to the table. Let's say users, and let's create a primary key for this table. Let's use @id annotation, and let's give a primary key generation strategy to this primary key, and we're going to use identity, as a primary key generation strategy. Now let's use @column annotation to provide a column name or to map a column to the fields. Here let's give first underscore name. Let's copy this, and similarly last underscore name. Okay, great. If you don't specify @column annotation, then by default the name of the column is the field name, and if you don't specify @table annotation, by default the name of the table is user, that is a class name. Okay, so it's pretty simple JP entity. Now let's quickly create a repository. Right click on a package, new, and create interface. Let's name it as user repository. Great. And this interface extends JPA repository. Now we'll get code operations on user entity, and let's annotate this interface with @repository annotation. Alright, now we'll get a CRUD database operations for user JP entity. Now what we'll do, we'll create a REST API. In order to create a REST API, we need to first create the controller. Right click on a controller package, new, and then choose class, and let's give a class name as user controller. Okay, and let's annotate this controller with @REST controller annotation, and also use @request mapping annotation, and let's give a path as API. Okay, and let's quickly create a simple REST API. Let's say public list of users. Let's say get users, the name of the method, and here we are going to use @get mapping annotation, and let's specify the endpoint URL like users. Alright, and here we'll inject user repository, private user repository. Alright, now simply return this dot user repository dot find all. So find all method basically returns a list of users. If you mouse over find all method, you can see here this method returns a list of users. Alright, now we have developed a simple REST endpoint, that is users, which returns a list of users to the client. Okay, that is pretty much about developing the REST API. Now what we'll do, we'll insert few records in a users table. For that, what we'll do, we'll implement command line runner interface. It provides a run method, and this run method basically executes when we deploy our application in a embedded default Tomcat server. So here what I will do, I will just auto wire or inject. So here we want to save a user object to the database, right? For that we are going to use user repository. Basically user repository offers CRUD database operations for user entity, right? Now what we'll do, we'll simply call user repository dot save method, and here we pass user object. Let's create a user, like first name as Ramesh, last name as Fartare, email as ramesh@gmail.com. Let's create a few more users. Now we have created user objects and we have inserted user objects into database. Now let's go ahead and let's run our Spring Boot project and let's test the REST API. Alright, look at here, our Spring Boot project is up and running on default Tomcat server on port 8080. Now let's open our Chrome browser and let's test the REST API. The REST API is users localhost 8080/API/users. Alright, in a browser just type localhost 8080/API/users and hit enter. Yeah, here we go. We got a JSON response from the server. So these are the list of users that we got from the server. Now we have successfully created and exposed a REST endpoint. Now it's time to create a REST client using React.js to consume this REST API. Alright guys, we're gonna quickly create a React application to consume this REST API.